Hey, everybody, we're live, and wow, what a scintillating final Sunday of the National Football League. Before we get into all that, I want to introduce our newest vlogger, Highlight Hendo. Welcome, man. How you doing? Seth Richards. I don't know if you want that known or, you're yeah.
Yeah,
Next.
I like to go by Highlight
A little
Hendo,
late
just
for that.
just a little for the persona.
Leave it to Zennie to screw up your identity. Sorry about that. Unintentionally.
That's all right. I haven't really covered any bases in terms of hiding up my personal life. I'm still out here just kind of doing my thing. I don't really have anything to hide. I feel like that's the thing about journalism. If you're over here trying to hide stuff, then you must not be putting out the right information. So I try to be as transparent as I can, so that way my audience and readers can know that they're getting some valuable information, whether it be some facts or just be my opinion or my outlook on something. I just so if you want to call me Seth, you can call me Seth. But I just put Highlight Hendo on there. It's a little bit easier. One of my friends gave me that little nickname, and I just kind of stuck with it.
Well, I'll call us lucky to have you alongside my longtime friend and esteemed Zennie62 Media NFL draft expert, Bill Carroll. Bill, how you doing?
Doing fairly well. I was sort of trying to go through, how I did on my various and sundry predictions. I nailed a couple. Was wide of the mark on, I think, at least two significant ones, but above average. Picking against the spread, I'm above 50%. And if you're picking against the spread of above 50%, you're doing okay.
Congratulations.
Not bad at all. Okay, so first of all, before we get to that, the NFL just sent this email to me, not but 3 minutes ago. It popped up in my face, and I don't remember that movie with the brother, that the actor. He had the movie where it was hard to get a black actor or something had come up and hit him right in the face, but anyway, whatever. Super Wild Card Weekend schedule announced. And it reads, New York, January 7th, 2024. The NFL tonight announced the schedule of sites, dates, and times for Super Wildcard Weekend, presented by Verizon, January 13th through the 15th, all times Eastern. Saturday, January 13th, AFC, 4:30 p.m., 5 seed Cleveland versus 4 seed Houston at Houston on NBC, Peacock, and Telemundo. Then that's the 4:30 game. The 8 o'clock game, is Pittsburgh or Miami, because of what's going on right now on Sunday Night Football, or Buffalo at Kansas City. So it's Pittsburgh or Miami or Buffalo at Kansas City on Peacock. And that sounds like Mr. Las Spinoso. Vinny, how are you?
Hey, hello, guys. Hey,
Yeah,
Zennie. Hey, Bill.
Good to see you, Vinny.
How you doing, Vinny?
Nice to meet you for the first time. Hello.
How you doing? How you doing?
You showed up right on time, because I'm actually announcing an email the NFL sent to us, Mike Nyota, now 5 minutes ago, about Super Bowl Wild Card Weekend. Yeah, isn't that like, exactly.
Nice. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Sunday, January 14th, and I'm happy to repeat these two, but AFC 1 p.m. games, AFC 7th seed at AFC 2nd seed. In other words, Pittsburgh at Miami or Buffalo, or Buffalo and Miami.
That's correct. It would be the Steelers against the Bills if the Bills win, and if the Dolphins win, it's a rematch of the game that's going on right now.
Yep.
Wow. Now the AFC, that's at 1 o'clock, Sunday, January 14th. The NFC game is, and I believe, I can show this in a way. You know what? I just realized my P brain was inactive for a second. Now my P brain just turned on. Since my P brain is now active, I'm going to see if it will come up and it did. I don't know if you can read that small print there, so I'm going to guess that you can't. What I'm going to do is I'm going to enlarge it to zoom in, and then zoom in, and then zoom in yet again, and then zoom in once more with feeling. Whoops, excuse me, that's zoom out. I meant zoom in. I'll just zoom in, and then I'll zoom in again. How's that? Is that better, folks?
Looks good to me.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
One, I believe,
boom, I can zoom here.
might even, yeah. Okay. Be able to squeeze that out there. Yeah. Okay. So, scrolling down, NFC, same January 14th date. We have 7th Green Bay at Dallas.
Ooh, that's gonna be a great rivalry game.
Yeah, 4:30. And then 8 o'clock that night. Again, this is Sunday, January 14th. The Rams visiting. Wow. That has trap game written all over it, in my opinion, but I want to get your opinion.
Mm-hmm.
This one, the Rams at Detroit. And then Monday, January 15th, we have the Philadelphia Eagles at the Bucks.
Ooh.
Wow.
Back-to-back Monday night games for Eagles at Buccaneers just twice this season. And this kind of reminds me of last year in terms of its setup. You have whoever wins the South, the AFC South plays on a Saturday. You have the Monday night wildcard game, have the NFC South winner, in this case, the Buccaneers. And, this year is the first year they're doing, 2 NBC games, a game on Peacock, so that means 3 for NBC, and, 1 for CBS, Fox, and ESPN. Last couple of years, they've had 2 games on CBS, so they've replaced that with an extra NBC game via Peacock. I gotta say, I really dig this matchup. Starting off with Browns Texans is a big one, and having the Chiefs be the game on Peacock is in a way a good move, because now one could say, why would you have the Chiefs, a team that draws a lot, on Peacock while you have the Texans and the Browns on regular NBC? But I think there's a big reason for that. The Chiefs are a massive draw. They're, in terms of choosing matchups, they're like the Cowboys of the AFC. So what better way for the NFL, in this case Peacock, to emphasize their streaming service that I know not a lot of people use, than putting, I don't know, the Chiefs on there? That's a massive power play. And that would say, hey, and if we get like the Steelers, or if we get like the Dolphins on either matchup, like, Steelers, great history, obviously a lot of fans there. Dolphins would be Tyreek Hill in Kansas City for the first time. That would draw a lot of people. Like, both of these matchups would be perfect games.
I got one thing. Hey, and this goes to, I'm going to fire up Seth here, because I'm really disappointed the Raiders are not part of this. Just because I believe that AP is, I think he's the man. I think that he can get blah 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 blah. Let me ask you, Seth, and I want all you guys' opinion. How would this picture have looked if the Raiders had not lost that game?
The Colts game?
Yeah, to the Colts.
Man, and I mean, looking back at it this week, it's losing to the Colts was especially pitiful, because they didn't have a very good performance today. I mean, it was kind of hilarious, and it really made me feel like, well, it doesn't matter. I sat up and I got up this morning to watch the Colts game, because I wanted to see, okay, was this a fluke? Did we lose to a really good team? Did Gardner Minshew actually come out here and really beat us, or did the Raiders just shoot themselves in the foot? And they shot themselves in both feet. It was bad. And had they won that game, I feel like all the fire. I mean, the game that happened today would have been the same, if not more. It would have been, I feel like it would have been the same. We would have just came out there and dominated the Broncos, because they were already eliminated. And something that my brother-in-law brought up to me was, Sean Payton wants to lose this game anyway. He wants the draft capital. He's he might not try and make it look like it. And to be honest, I don't know if anybody paid attention to the timeout usage, especially in the second half. I mean, He was just giving it away. I mean, he used his last timeout before there were 4.5 minutes left. It's like,
hi guys, sorry.
Hey, PJ, how's it going?
Good.
Hey, PJ, we're in the middle of Seth giving his spiel real quick. So hold on and hold that thought. That's okay. Go ahead. Go ahead, Seth. Sorry.
And I'm not trying to give the Raiders like, oh, hey, you didn't really win that game, because I feel like everybody gives the Raiders the bottom end of the stick right there in terms of, oh, we didn't really win that game, or, that was a backup quarterback. Well, how many times have the Raiders played against a backup quarterback this season? I mean, we'll just look how many backup quarterbacks were playing in the NFL, period. Look how many quarterbacks the Browns, the Vikings, the Jets. I mean, there's a lot of teams that had some trouble. So,
thank you, Dave. By the way, that's our
appreciate you, David.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
But
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Had they won that Colts game and come in with some real momentum, we would have had to bank on the I think it was the Steelers losing, and I think there was like 2 games that had to play out a certain way that, at least by history now, they didn't play out in our favor. So we wouldn't have made it, even if we had won those 2 games. But our record would have been better, and the morale would have been a little bit higher. The case for AP could be a little bit better. Could be a little bit stronger. But the Raiders posted on their media page already on YouTube and Twitter that a selfie video of AP saying, "All right, I'll see you Raider Nation in 2024." So, I mean, to me, it sounds like he already got the job.
Hey, looks like Mr. Carroll's chomping at the bit. Bill, what you got to say?
Well, frankly, if you look at the level of effort, you can't change the roster that much, right? I mean, you can bring guys up from the practice squad. You can release a few guys you don't think fit with the program or whatever. But by the time, you go from being an interim coach to a head coach, or hopefully interim to head coach, you're playing the cards you're dealt at that point, right? By the time you got the job, you were pretty darn close to the trade deadline anyway. And this is not the kind of team you make a blockbuster trade with, for several reasons. One is you're still figuring out where you are as a team, especially when you're bringing in a new coach and a new interim GM, who I hope also in Mr. Champ Kelly, who I also hope also gets a chance to get the job for real. Here, the things that I noticed when I analyzed the team throughout the year: the offensive line got better and better and better as the year went on. And not that they didn't have the occasional bad performance, but you saw at times Aiden O'Connell, who, was getting slapped around pretty good earlier in the season. His play improved, at least in part because his ribs didn't hurt so darn much. Right. I know you didn't play a lot, Zennie, but let me assure you, people say, oh, bruised ribs. Like, oh, yeah, bruised ribs. Having had bruised ribs and even a little bit of torn cartilage in the rib cage area, coughing hurts, brushing your hair hurts, brushing your teeth hurts. I mean, everything short of blinking hurts, right? And when you half the quarterbacks in the league, especially on teams that don't have great offense, have some form of like rib something, right? And it shows up on the report is, oh yeah, he'll play bruised ribs. Let me assure you that playing football with bruised ribs is a miserable experience. I don't think people like, oh, bruise. Like, they're thinking about the kind of bruises that you have, right? I have. I banged my shoulder. I banged my elbow. No. This is a horrifically painful experience. Just doing normal stuff when you have bruised ribs. Playing football with bruised ribs is a horrible experience. So when your quarterback's getting beaten up, especially a young, inexperienced quarterback getting beaten up, 2 things happen, right? One is, after a while, I don't care if you're the toughest dude in America, you're going to start looking to see, well, are they coming again, right? I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Johnny friggin' Unitas. At some point, you're going to be like, well, where is that Khalil Mack? I mean, by the way, I don't care who you are. You're going to check on that. So that means that you're going to lose big plays, right? Because you're not going to see that guy. That guys don't stay open that long. By the time you go back to check, oh, okay, we got Khalil Mack this time. Oh, good. Now, oh, darn it, right? Yeah. That opening is closed. That's one thing that you lose when your quarterback's getting beaten up. And 2, that even when you do have protection, you don't trust it. So you're going to take checkdowns. You're going to be less accurate because you're trying to get the ball out faster and faster and faster, even when you don't have to. When you can feel like you can trust your protection, now you're going to, hey, I'm going to navigate this pocket a little bit. I'm going to slide. Oh, hey, somebody broke open late. So your yards per attempt and yards per completion go up when you trust your protection. you're more accurate when you trust your protection because you're not flinching as you release the football. So his play improved. It tracks almost exactly with the improvement of the offensive line. You always had a good run blocking offensive line from Jump Street. And, if you want to thank the previous administration for anything, I guess you can thank them for that. But they were not great in pass blocking. Their pass blocking grades were from middle to bad, frankly, for the first 10 or so weeks of the season. And you saw a gradual improvement there. You saw a gradual improvement despite the injuries to the running back position in efficiency from the running backs. They caught the ball better, whoever it was, right? It wasn't always the same person, but they caught the ball better. You saw less double catching. You saw guys get upfield faster once they had the ball in their hands amongst the running backs. And I think that they really should throw the ball to the running backs even more than they do. Because one, they're guys who catch the ball well, right? None of the guys that you throw the ball to are like, hands like feet guys, right? All of them catch the ball well. Even the ones you don't throw to that often. I mean, Emil Abdullah is probably the best thing he does, though he doesn't play a lot. Right. Jacobs is a very solid receiver when he's out there. And that was a question mark about Zamir White because he almost never got the ball thrown to him at Georgia. But he's shown he's not elite. He's not young Marshall Faulk, but is he an able receiver of the ball? Yes. Now, this team still lacks team speed, right? They have one guy we have one guy who can really run. His name's Trey Tucker, and he plays sparingly, right? Everyone else is like mid 4.5s and slower. Right? Yep. It is a team of kind of slowish dudes. Not that you can't still win when your team's kind of slow, but it's much harder because teams play you differently. If you have even one guy they fear to beat them deep, they play you differently. But you have essentially zero. The one guy that has real speed almost never plays. Now, I hope that changes. Hope by this time next year, they really integrate Trey Tucker more into the offense and then draft more speed. More speed. You've got to draft more speed. And then I'll wrap on this. I think Champ Kelly, who has played this game and been a GM, right, while he was in playing it, not the Arena League, but an Arena League. He was at one point a GM and a player at the same darn time. So he's plugged in. Yeah, look I remember Champ Kelly as a player at Kentucky and then in playing indoors. He has a really good idea of what things work, right? He may not be experienced because, well, this is the first time doing it. But I think he's going to learn a lot really quickly on the job. I would maybe bring in as a consultant some old hand, right? Not to tell him what to do, but just to say, hey, I think other teams value this guy this way. It helps you if you do want to make trades and stuff like that.
Hey, Bill, I want to get PJ's view because I know he's got a little bit of time.
Well, I said I was done. That was it. I was wrapping on that.
PJ, what do you think of the Raiders? And considering that they didn't make the playoffs, unfortunately, but nonetheless posted a great record for the future.
I think how the Raiders did this year, they after Josh McDaniels left and got let go.
PJ meet Seth. Seth meet PJ.
Hi, Seth. Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you, PJ. I've seen a few of your videos. Right.
Nice yeah, I'm an NFL fan. Love the Raiders. Rooted for them last year. I'm now kind of NFL because I like Broncos, Raiders, Chiefs. All the shebang. Anyway.
Schizophrenic, in other words.
Yeah. Since I got a couple more minutes, with the Raiders, they did a phenomenal job this year. The head coach, AP, did a phenomenal job. I mean, I was hoping for Broncos win this evening, but I know that the Raiders were just better. They are better at home. They're good at home. And Antonio Pierce has that team rolling. And if they would have changed a few things, if a few scores would have changed, they probably would have been in the playoffs. But you know what? It's a great step and a future that looks very promising for the Raiders. And I think I can see Antonio Pierce going from interim to head coach. I mean, I would be shocked if they brought in Jim Harbaugh. I would be shocked if they brought in Jim Harbaugh. And I would be surprised if they brought in Bill Belichick, because I'm hearing that as well. That there's the possibility of maybe Bill Belichick coming into the Raiders. I would be shocked, but yet not surprised at the same time because of how Mark Davis likes to go for the big fish in the sea. But I sincerely hope that Mark Davis learned his lesson from what he did with Rich Bisaccia and letting him go. I hope he learned his lesson so that he can keep AP on the staff. And I think Champ Bailey is the same way, and just change their. I know Mark Davis has to go through the interview process. I know that. I understand that. But I really hope that Champ Kelly, thank you. I think I said Champ Bailey. Oops.
Sorry, you're not the only one.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not. I think Champ and Antonio Pierce, I think they both deserve to go from interim to permanent head coach GM. So we'll see what happens, but I'm just glad that we got some playoffs going next week. And my second team, the Cowboys are NFC East champs. Woohoo! Super happy on that one. Stoked. So I got them to root for 2 games. But anyway, that's what I got for y'all tonight. I gotta head out. I got a couple of people I'm talking with that I'm dealing with. So I will talk to y'all later. Seth,
Hi to your mom. Tell your mom I said hello.
Will do, Seth. Nice to meet you, and glad to have you a part of the team. And I will talk to y'all later. And have fun, y'all.
All right.
Right on.
I got a question for everybody.
Me
What
too
the
as
heck
well.
is wrong with the Philadelphia Eagles?
Oh, I can tell you a few things that are wrong.
Oh, please.
Real quick on that.
Vinny, please.
Oh, my goodness. Anyway, love y'all. Bye. I'm headed out.
Take care, BJ.
Yeah.
I have. See,
Seth,
PJ.
what did you say? What did you say, Seth?
Oh, I was saying, Vinny, please tell me.
Okay, I'll tell you what's wrong with the Eagles as someone who watched the game on Paramount Plus. Yeah, better quality than the CBS, but believe me, I can assure you that. So watching the entire Eagles game, it honestly looked like this didn't seem like a team that knew if they win, they could have a chance to win the division. And granted, even if it were to happen, it still wouldn't guarantee they'd win the division. But they've just been backsliding. They started out like 10-1, and now they're 11-6.
Mm-hmm.
And they've gone 1-5 since that Niners game, and it feels like they haven't really got back up. Maybe you're also dealing with the after effects of losing Jonathan Gannon and Shane Steichen getting head coaching jobs. That also doesn't help things. It also seemed like, AJ Brown is now injured. Jalen Hurts now, I don't know if he dislocated his finger or anything, because that also is a problem. I mean, without Hurts, that's going to be a big, big problem for them. Also, you had Lane Johnson in and out of the lineup a little bit this year. It just felt like the defense was not the same with Matt Patricia calling the plays compared to how Jonathan Gannon was. Also, not only, this is a side note, I think because of how the Eagles were last year, a lot of people have figured them out a little bit as the season went along, and it just feels like they weren't really able to beat those better teams, in this case the Cowboys or the Niners.
Mm-hmm.
And the Eagles are now going to be against the Buccaneers in the wild card round, a team that they beat early in the season on Monday Night Football. The Bucs did not look great today, but they got the W and they got the division title. They got to make sure the Buccaneers don't plan revenge against them, because, oh boy, you don't want to team that goes Super Bowl one year and the next year you implode late in the season and you lose in the first round. Yikes.
Well said. Oh, sorry about that. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. Okay. All right. Why do I feel like Bill has something he wants to add here?
I think the main thing is just beaten up. As was mentioned, yeah, it's at least dislocated, possibly broken, but definitely dislocated. I mean, if you saw his finger, it's not just doing that like to be obscene. Like, his finger wasn't bending for a reason, kids. So minimally it is dislocated. And once again, dislocated fingers. If you have a normal office job, inconvenient and painful, whatever. If you throw a football for a living,
You get tackled by 300-pound men.
For a living, it is more than just a minor inconvenience. I do think that they'll right the ship, and if indeed they do find themselves playing Tampa Bay, it's actually a good matchup for the Eagles because the things that have been gashing them most recently, they've suddenly softened against the run. They were one of the best teams against the run for the first almost 2/3 of the season, and then they've been, in the 20th somethings, in the 22, 23 area against the run the last several weeks. And I think that's physical pounding, right? I mean, that's technique matters in any position, no matter what you're doing. But when you're playing defense on the interior, particularly, when things start to hurt, things start to ache, you don't bend as well, you don't move as quickly, you're getting reached on reach blocks when you used to beat those blocks. You're getting moved when you didn't used to get moved because you're not playing as low. Once again, if you've ever played football, what's one of the first things that gives away fatigue? When you start playing higher, right? Anybody here who's ever played will remember that. Whether you're a defensive back, in your back pedal, whether you're a D tackle in your stance, one of the first things that gives away that you're getting tired is when you start playing higher. And when you start playing higher, you lose the leverage battle, and you see that happening. When you lose depth, now you're playing your starters or your backups, who are now starters, are playing more snaps. And what happens when you play more snaps? Now you get tired. What happens when you get tired? You're more likely to get injured, and you're more likely to get moved physically on the interior. I think that if they're able to get a little rest, now obviously it hurts them they didn't get a bye week. That would have helped this team. This team particularly a lot would have been helped by a bye week. But I do think they'll look very different against Tampa Bay because Tampa Bay is not great at running the football. That's the thing where Tampa Bay is not very good. Although they had a good day today running the football. But
Rachaad White's been pretty good for me in fantasy.
Oh, same here. I'm a big Rachaad White guy. I fell in love with him back when he was at Arizona State and have scouted him extensively. Love his game. And I called him a poor man's Marcus Allen. I was only slightly exaggerating when I said that, but he's once again, upright running style, long-legged guy, kind of slender, not quite as slender as Marcus, but kind of slender. And shifty with a little more, because of the long legs, a little more speed than people realize because he doesn't look like he's going fast. So people take bad angles because of like I said, that length. He doesn't have incredible turnover, but real good stride length. So,
by the way, Bill, I'm going to give a quick shout out to the analysts who didn't play the game extensively. For example, I went out for quarterback at Skyline High School, but I was put at strong safety and came up with a new defensive coverage. And on that basis, wound up being the team's equipment manager because I wanted to get my plays in and meet this cheerleader. So there you go.
Well, I hope you were successful in both of those endeavors.
Yeah, I've never had a play that didn't work, including you can ask John Gruden that because he had Will Kiss wait for me at the 2018 NFL annual meeting and give him a play that is now an NFL standard. If you ever see the cross buck with a halfback, and then you've got the jet sweep, and the jet sweep guy goes out and runs the bubble. There are no variations of that. Well, actually, that's me. And Gruden ran it first in 2018 with Marshawn Lynch in preseason, and then it got stolen. So my point is, I'm really fighting out there for the analysts. You guys can say you play it all you want to, but you always run the plays that we create as analysts. Don't forget it. All right. Anyway, there you go.
As coaches or as play designers, yeah, and that's true. But I'm saying there's things that you don't know if you didn't. Like, you don't know how fatigue affects a player if you never played, right? That it helps to know some of those things because very often a person isn't cognizant of, well, why is this guy not playing as well? Oh, wait, he's fatigued. Right.
Absolutely.
It's like, he increased, he was playing 20 snaps for the past 3 games, and now he's playing, 40, 50.
Yeah, right. But Bill, if you're designing a reasonable game plan, I mean, what is called a pitch count universally always comes into play. So that's not exactly the case.
It should, but you can tell some people don't take that into account, and you've seen it.
Oh, a lot of people
and you've seen it, right? So
definitely.
Yeah, and speaking of which, a lot of people, I want you guys' opinion on this person.
My gosh.
I think you know what's about to come.
It's sort of a renewal of the "What's your deal?" Remember the world famous Jim Harbaugh, Pete Carroll. What's your deal? What's your deal? only it was a little more profane.
Coach Smith is angry.
I'm just getting my homework hat on.
There you go.
Touchdown.
There you go.
Rather than sitting on the ball. So he's going right in on Dennis Allen right here saying, you can read his lip, what kind of, right here he says, effing bullshit, okay?
Yes.
He's cursing at Dennis.
Yes,
and Dennis is like, calm down. He's, that's bullshit, okay?
Yes, that
he's
is
like bullshit.
So he's trying to explain that Jamal Williams hadn't scored all season.
Clearly
and had led the NFL in touchdowns the year prior. Now that didn't matter at all, obviously, to him in that moment. But
what you guys think about that thing? I mean, I obviously have my opinions, but let's go round robin. First Vinny, and then Seth, and then Bill.
I think when it comes to Arthur Smith, he should get fired. That's first. I need to make that very, very clear. I think as someone who has watched all the games of them this season, he should get fired because the offense is absolutely horrible. This is a team that has an offensive-minded head coach, and quarterback play has not been good. You have not been someone to give Bijan Robinson the ball, someone who you got a very high draft pick on, someone who many thought would end up winning Offensive Rookie of the Year. Did not. You did not give him the ball much this season. You saw regression from Desmond Ridder. You kept pulling him in and out of the lineup. Taylor Heineke didn't look that great in his relief in general. And, and now Arthur Smith, coaching a team that has gone 7-10 the last 3 seasons, has had the 8th overall pick the last 3 seasons, all in time with him being the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons professional football team. I think this guy needs to be shown the door. I think the team as a whole needs a restart. I love Rich McKay, love what he did for the Buccaneers, love what he did with the Falcons. I think he's a semifinalist for the Hall of Fame. I think he has a good case for it, at least in my opinion. Some might disagree with me, but whatever. I think it's time.
I agree with you.
I think he's someone that I'd like to see some fresh blood. I feel like I understand the grass is not always greener on the other side. I mean, just look at quarterback play for the team, but you can't. I also understand you're upset with Dennis Allen for running the score up on the Falcons, but this isn't that surprising as the Saints are the Falcons' legendary division rival. It's also a team that knows that if they win, they have a chance, assuming that the Seahawks and Packers were to lose, that they could make the playoffs. That did not happen, and the Saints played their best game of the season offensively, and it showed. And good on the Saints. They played their heart out. I think Carr had one of his best performances of the season. I think the offense as a whole did, and I think the defense took advantage of poor opportunities and bad management of the ball that the Falcons had, and yeah, just another mediocre season for Atlanta, and I think they deserve to have a brand new head coach next season with hopefully a brand new quarterback. That I'd love to see Russell Wilson on the Falcons. He'd be pretty interesting, but just in general, just Arthur Smith needs to go, and if he's complaining, play better, coach better.
What do you think, Seth?
Yeah, I'm definitely with Vinny on that one. If you got to coach better. You have Bijan Robinson on your team, and you barely used him all season. And I remember everybody was talking about, he's going to be, rookie of the year. He was in talks for rookie of the year, and couldn't even make it halfway through even being nominated for it because he wasn't even getting any playing time.
No, right.
And I think it's just really sad for the city of Atlanta. I feel like the city of Atlanta is so monumental in our country, let alone the league. And for Arthur Smith to just come in there and think that he's gonna, win or have a winning culture with that kind of performance, or that should I say a lack of sportsmanship, because to come up there cussing up in the middle of the field after the game to the other coach on live television, like how? I'm sorry. And
it's a bad look.
I understand it's the last game of the season, but dude, you got blown out. You got blown out bad. And here's the thing. Normally, I wouldn't really be for like normally I'd be kind of more on the side of, hey, that's pretty disrespectful to kind of just score on a team here in that last little moment there. But at the end of the season, guys have their incentives, and if you like your guys, if you got guys that you want to bring back and you're trying to, show people that you're with them, because I'm sure, Dennis Allen's job is probably in question.
Yeah.
Some people are talking about, oh, should they even run it back with Derek Carr or not? It's like, well, I don't think they really have an option.
They do not.
Yeah,
they owe him a lot of guaranteed money.
Exactly. And you're going to be looking at a lot of. I feel like there's going to be a lot of teams next season that are going to be paying quarterbacks or paying people. Like, I mean, the Raiders are going to be paying coaches that aren't on the team anymore, paying players that aren't on the team anymore, and. You were talking about, hey, Russell Wilson could be great for the Falcons. Some people are saying Russell Wilson wants to go to the Raiders. The Raiders are one of the only teams that he's willing to waive his no trade clause for.
No, I don't see them. I don't see them trading him. I know
it's
that
not a trade. It's not a trade. It's a straight up release.
Oh yeah. Why would anyone?
It's released, and then you sign Russell Wilson for the vet minimum, and this would be any team who signs him for the vet minimum. That vet minimum just gets deducted from whatever the Broncos have to pay, so they still have to pay upwards of $85 million.
You paid enough this year.
yeah. So Russell Wilson he's a Super Bowl quarterback that is difficult to deal with. I mean, I think he's got a difficult personality to mesh with the right team. I feel like if anybody but Sean Payton was the head coach, then we could, probably say that Russ wasn't that bad, or the Broncos were actually kind of going to be threatening. But just to move this back over to the Falcons, if Russ goes over to the Falcons, they have a run game, and if they have a new head coach who knows how to use them, they could be pretty deadly. Drake London's not a super scary guy, but I think running back by committee is the way to go for Atlanta. New quarterback, new head coach, and they'll be set.
Yeah. But the question of the day is: should Arthur Smith have punched out Dennis Allen?
What do you mean by punch out? You mean like physically punch out, or like on the football field?
That's what I thought he was going to do. I thought, he's going to swing at him. Are you kidding me?
Listen, this is a great rivalry, especially when it comes to Southern professional sports. But I think as animated as Arthur Smith was, I would say the best thing he did in that scenario, in a scenario that he did everything that was the wrong decision, he did not physically assault Dennis Allen. And granted, Dennis Allen has his faults. I think everyone here would agree with that. But Absolutely. I think most of us can agree that as mediocre as Dennis Allen's been since taking over as the head coach of the Raiders, not the Raiders, there's the Saints. I'm thinking the Raiders this time there. At least the Saints have been a team whose offense has shown signs of improvement. At least the team as a whole has shown collectiveness or togetherness. Ever since Arthur Smith has been the head coach of the Falcons, he's had the worst year from Matt Ryan, their guy who everyone who knows me thinks I think pretty highly of. I think Bill knows, especially. And you too, Zennie. Seth, in case you're curious, I'm a huge fan of his. I have several signed collectibles from him.
Wow.
And I don't have that for anyone else. 2022.
Nice.
No, hell yeah. 2022, you have Desmond Ridder, who you take in the third round. You stick with Marcus Mariota, who had some good moments, but also on some really bad moments. Then Ridder didn't play great. And now this season, your offense continues to regress while your defense is still pretty good. Chris Lindstrom, again, is having an all-pro caliber season as a guard. In my opinion, has been playing like their best, guard, best interior lineman since Alex Mack. And you can maybe even argue their best lineman in general since the Mike Ken days of, back in the 90s. And to waste another season from both of those guys from that guy. And Bijan Robinson, who I thought was going to be Rookie of the Year. Drake London had some really good games this year. And again, but this is the biggest question mark. Kyle Pitts has been a non-factor again this season. Like, I almost forget Kyle Pitts is even on the team. Like, I remember the game in London against the Jaguars when they were showing the Toy Story game 2 on the Disney Plus. On Disney Plus, they had one person sent a meme of, "Here, kids, it's Kyle Pitts," and it was the scene of Wheezy in Toy Story 2 where Woody pulls up the books and he's all covered in dust. It's so fitting too because he is so underutilized, and this is a guy that you took. And he's the guy who, when Ryan was with him in his first year, like, he broke, I think, the rookie receiving tight end record. Like, granted, he didn't have a lot of tight end touchdowns, but he had a whole bunch of yards, and he was playing great that year. But since then, I mean, Mario didn't get him the ball, Heineke didn't get him the ball, Ritter didn't get him the ball, and Smith didn't really use him at all in the passing game. So why even use a 4th overall pick if you're not even going to use him? It's just foolish. It's foolish.
It wasn't just, hey, Vinny, I'm going to help you out there. It wasn't just Kyle Pitts. Cordell Patterson, same problem. And Drake London, I mean, here's a guy you can fly as a flyer at USC, all right? And they're subjecting him to, a sorry excuse for a slant pattern where he gets clocked over the middle by a safety. That happened in the game today. So, I mean, I'll say this, but I'm going to just get to Dr. Bill and Dr. Richardson. But, I mean, look, the constant is Dave Rangone. Does that make you happy, Bill? Dave Rangone.
Keep putting an extra N in it. It's just Ragone. R-A-G. Not R-A-N-G. It's not Rang. It's Ragone.
That's Panda Express. It's not the little cheese.
He should be fired too. He was promoted from beyond just the offensive coordinator. He's also the quarterbacks coach this year. And again,
he's the constant, though. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, he should be gone too. It's not just Smith. I think the entire offensive coaching staff should be gone this year. Like, they've been absolutely bad. In fact,
well, you don't fire the head coach and keep his assistants. That's not how
I mean the entire, especially the offensive side of the ball.
The Raiders used to do that.
I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying it never happens. Yeah, that was, and they were. Yeah, they shouldn't have done it. But it rarely works out when you do it. It really works.
Well, I'm saying in general, when it comes to the Falcons, there were many statistics that showed that the Falcons' offense, like your EPA and whatnot, was actually twice as bad as the second worst team. And you're mentioning Cordero Patterson there. I saw Cordero Patterson liking a post that said that showed the fans, hey, you have a guy that is the all-time leader in punt return touchdowns. This guy has gotten so many All-Pros. This guy, I believe, is a Hall of Fame level player, and you're not using him. Again, Drake London, a high Japanese. He had like that game also against the Buccaneers. Oh my God, he was unbelievable that game. I didn't use him. This is like Dave Ragone. Just fire him. Fire Arthur Smith. Arthur Blank needs to
be gone.
Dave Ragone and Arthur Smith. I know you have a history because your dad is the guy that founded FedEx. I think we should give you a favor, just like what your dad did, and ship you out of Atlanta. It only makes sense. It'll make your life go full circle. You could be an offensive coordinator somewhere else. Maybe you can go back to Tennessee, and maybe you could help with Will Levis. I kind of worry for Will Levis, the developments if he's there, but hey, just don't go back to Atlanta. Please don't. Please do not go back to Atlanta.
You can be gone overnight.
Okay, so guys, I got a question here. Who's the dark horse in all this?
What do you mean the dark horse?
I mean that team that shouldn't be in the playoffs, but could make noise and wind up in the Super Bowl.
You mean like the Browns?
Browns, I think of.
Yeah, you're talking about like a team like the Browns?
You tell me.
I mean,
tell me,
man, with the way Joe Flacco is playing, to say that he should be in the Super Bowl, like that's one of the only teams I want to see. Like for me, I want the AFC Championship game to be between the Ravens and the Browns. I feel like that'd be the most exciting game.
It would be huge.
And
yeah.
The Ravens are my second team. Now that the Raiders are gone, I'm taking the Ravens. That's just the way it goes because I want their senior offensive analyst or their senior offensive assistant, James Urban. He was the quarterbacks coach from 2018 to 20. Oh, good Lord, man. My computer over here, or my laptop's falling. But yeah, I think James Urban, I think he's a great offensive mind. He's still working over there with Lamar and the Ravens, and I mean he's working with a Harbaugh, and he also was the wide receivers coach for the Bengals back before he was with the Ravens. So. And I think he did that in, I want to say 2011. It was either 2011 or 2013, somewhere overlapping with Marvin Lewis, who has also been in the Raiders building recently. And just wondering if any of those ties might possibly be able to get the Raiders a good coaching staff this offseason. But it all depends on really like how soon Mark makes this decision.
Said he had a long talk with him. Didn't they? Did you see the video that Seth? That Mark has supposedly had a long talk with Coach Pierce today?
Well, that's because I was watching the presser, and every time that Aiden O'Connell comes out to speak first, that means that usually Mark Davis is speaking with Antonio Pierce. And then after Aiden O'Connell leaves, it's usually a good 10, 15 minutes before Antonio Pierce even comes up and talks, and then he speaks. And today he seemed quiet. He seemed a little quieter, like he wasn't, like he hadn't finished talking with Mark, and like they were like, all right, well, let's just like get out there and keep the, because the cameras are rolling, go tell their speech, and then we'll finish talking. Because after the presser, there's about another 10, 15 minutes, then he seemed a little more chipper and was saying like, all right, Raider Nation, I'll see you 2024. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I
hope so. I'll talk about this too. With how bad the Raiders were to start the season with Josh McDaniels there, I honestly felt for a lot of Raiders fans. I felt for you, Zenny. I also felt for people like you, Seth. I really did. But then Antonio Pierce came, and I got to say, man, everything's just, your phone keeps falling, man.
Oh, man, I think it's too heavy, and I got it too high up or something.
You got to try to see if you can prop it up against.
Have a book or something you can counterbalance it. Like that.
Yeah.
Well, I got it on the stand here, but I think I'm just going to lower it a little bit, lower that center of gravity.
Yeah, that sounds good.
He's
but
gone.
So, like I was saying,
touchdown.
You were saying, Vinny? Go ahead.
Yeah, like I was saying, as soon as Antonio Pierce became the interim head coach of the Raiders, you can just feel a different vibe from this team.
Yeah.
Just look at the way that the players were with him as the head coach compared to Josh McDaniels. Like, you felt so much more camaraderie. You felt like the players want to play for this guy. You felt that, hey, listen, you felt like the team had more of an identity. Granted, I didn't know if the team would really be a real force, but I really did think there's a team that could play spoiler for a lot of people. And sure enough, they did. Like, this was a really scrappy team to finish the season. Aiden O'Connell had some good games and some not so good games. Max Crosby, oh my God. He is just so good. I just can't say enough how good he is as a pass rusher. One of the very best in the entire league, bar none.
Yep.
And, that game against the Chargers, what a way to finish Brandon Staley's career on Thursday Night Football and just stick it to them. And also beating the Chiefs on Christmas Day. Like, you had some really good games there, but you also had
completing a single pass after the first quarter,
which makes it even more impressive just how great the defense was. Really just a full team effort. But you had some hiccups there too. The game against the Vikings was not great. Granted, you held the Vikings to 3 points the entire game, which is true, but you also did not score a point the entire game. You made up for the game against the Chargers, that's for sure, but still. And, that game against the Colts, that was a really, really tough game for them.
Bill scored. Bill scored. Bill scored. Sorry.
Yeah, I mentioned that. Yeah, the kick return by Deontay Hardy. Yeah,
Nice. Well, yeah,
Sorry,
go ahead. It's okay. But
I just happened to see it. I went,
the game against the Colts really did bite them. So it made the game against the Broncos, in the grand scheme of playoff chances, meaningless. But at the same time, this is, was this like the fourth season since 2003 that the finish with 8 or more wins? Considering the circumstances, that's not bad at all. Also 5-4 in the 9 games you were the head coach. Also not bad. Hey, I don't know if I don't think Aiden O'Connell is the long-term or even short-term injury, but I gotta say, how could you not give Antonio Pierce the main job? I mean, you should have kept Rich Bisaccia. You let him walk despite leading the Raiders to the playoffs. Granted, Antonio Pierce didn't lead the Raiders to the postseason, but you just feel a different aura with this team. You just felt a different atmosphere with this team since he became the head coach. So, yeah, I would keep Antonio Pierce for another season. I think he's earned it. Absolutely, I think he's earned it. He's proven himself that he could be a head coach in this league. Despite everything, he was able to get this team to a near winning record, and he went 5-4 in the 9 games he coached. That is pretty impressive stuff. I don't care if playoff appearance enough. You earn my respect, and Antonio Pierce earns my respect.
Okay, so guys, for the next 10 minutes or 15 minutes to close, who gets fired first and when?
Well, I think Arthur Smith is next to go, or Ron Rivera. It'll be
Ron
a race.
Rivera.
It'll be a race to the bottom or whatever between those two. But the real reason that Arthur Smith was super pissed wasn't just that they ran a play that scored, is that it was a deceptive play, right? They faked a kneel down. That's what drove him nuts. If they just lined up and ran, or lined up and thrown, or lined up and whatever, and it was clear that they were going to try to score, and that he would have been fine with that. He would have, well, not fine with it, but he wouldn't have been that angry, right? If that, what drove him insane was that it was a deceptive play. They faked the kneel down and then ran it in after essentially his defense had relaxed. Now, you shouldn't ever relax on defense. That is kind of on you. I mean, the very nature of offensive football is deception. I mean, you should know that, Arthur Smith, since you are supposedly an offensive genius. But yeah, I know people can't see air quotes, but I think they can hear them.
I can hear it in the inflections and also my eyes.
That it is clear to me that certain teams got it wrong in their process of hiring a coach, even, right? Like, it's one thing if you use the right process, but get the wrong result. That sometimes happens. But it's clear to me that some teams use the wrong process, right? The process of hiring Arthur Smith was you looked at a guy that ran that, exotic smash mouth offense that they had with the Titans / Oilers. Well, they're just the Titans now, where you have a freak of nature, 247-pound running back that makes it's like having an easy button.
Yeah.
Because
it's a cheat code, Bill. It's a cheat code
because you're facing 8-man boxes like 60% of the time. And so anything else you do down the field should be fairly easy money. And Tannehill, while he's not, a Hall of Fame or even an all-pro quarterback, he is slightly above the middle line quarterback. And he can do enough, both, within the structure of the actual called play or even outside of it. Once again, a very good athlete himself, that you got a lot of big plays off of, especially when you still had Arthur Brown Jr., which he did in part of his time there in his tenure. So it means that now you have basically the Derrick Henry of running backs and the Derrick Henry of wide receivers on the same team, and a quarterback who is a good enough athlete with a strong enough arm that big plays are not that hard to find when teams are so worried about getting smashed by your running back. Now, could they have done something similar with the offense that they have in Atlanta? They could have. Now, is Drake London Arthur Brown Jr.? No. But is he a big, strong, semi-fast guy who could get big plays because he's hard to cover because he's a former – I mean, Drake London is a former basketball player at USC. Can you throw balls up to him and he can go up and catch them? Yes. Do you have another basically a small forward at tight end that you could just throw balls up to anytime you want to? Yes. Is Bijan Robinson Derrick Henry? No. Is he a guy who can get you big plays both in the passing game and the run game? Yes. And he managed to underutilize all of the above.
And Phil, not only that, think about it. You have Patterson is 6'4", right? You got
no, Patterson's nowhere near 6'4". He's almost 6'2", but he's 6'1" and 7/8.
Okay, but here's what I'm going with this real quick. Drake London is what, 6'5", okay? All right.
Listed at 6'5", he's 6'3" and 5/8. But
Kyle Pitts is what?
Now he's a legit 6'6".
That's the one. I can tell you, and Vinny and Seth, you guys have watched some Falcons. I know Vinny has watched a bunch. All right. I have never seen one goal line formation that had all three of them in it at once.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying, Zenny. I've watched all their games this season from start to finish. The fact of the matter is, people gave Ryan a lot of crap if the team was unsuccessful. But guess what? Ryan and the offensive coordinator knew the best players when where to throw the ball to, even with terrible offensive lines. In this situation, you have Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Cordero Patterson. You have all these three great weapons at your disposal, really tall weapons, and you decide to give Kyle Pitts a season where he plays 17 games. These are his stats: 53 receptions for 667 yards and 3 touchdowns, which is absolutely unacceptable considering where you took him. And not only that, in the last 3 games of the season, in the last game in particular, last 3 games, he got only 3 receptions. 3 receptions he got. And that game against the Bears in particular was even funnier because it was 1 reception for 5 yards. And yeah.
So I have a question for you guys. I've been asking this to all my football friends because it relates to coaching. Does the head coach need to be able to call plays? Is that something that should be required? No, right?
No.
Right. Because what is the head coach's job ultimately?
He's an administrator. Like the best example was historically Jim Lee Howell, the Giants. He had Vince Lombardi as his offensive coordinator and Tom Landry as his defensive coordinator. And it was he was just, he was almost a side bit for these stars. Okay. And that was fine. They won.
So what exactly? So what is the head coach? The head coach doesn't need to be an offensive guru. They don't need to be a defensive guru. I feel like people are so hung up on this, well, Bill Belichick, he's this defensive guru and he's this great defensive mind. They have this dynasty. It's like I feel like that's why everybody went with the Josh McDaniels, with the Brandon Staley. Oh, the Brandon Staley, he's this defensive guru. And I was like, oh no, I'm calling the defense. I'm calling the plays on defense. Like the head coach's job is to get people together, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I think the head coach's job is to be essentially you're the game manager, but you should be able to, if you're not the offensive guy, you should be able to know when to tell your offensive guy, hey, this offense isn't looking like you said it was going to look like.
Yep.
Hey, this offense isn't really cooking like the way I know this defense needs it to cook. So, that's the kind of stuff. I mean, I feel like the best example of this is Mike Tomlin. He's one of my favorite head coaches of all time. Me too. I think he's he's the bee's knees.
Yeah.
If he was ever, up for needed a job, I'm putting up all the petitions.
Look right here where it says beneath my name. Mike Tomlin is one of my favorite coaches in the league. Every single year.
Oh, Seth, Vinny is our Hall of Fame expert, by the way.
Yes, I should say that.
I see that now, man. I was I might say it's real small on my phone over here. I wasn't really reading it, but man, now I know.
what makes the Steelers so good as an organization, 3 legendary head coaches in the span of 50 years, and you go back a bit further, you had Buddy Parker, another Hall of Fame head coach who's going to make it this year finally. Only took, decades? Mike Tomlin, every single year it seems like every single year the Steelers are competitive. And the years that the Steelers miss the playoffs, they still have a 500 or above record, and they're always the best team in the AFC record-wise to miss the playoffs. And guess what? Another year of the playoffs for Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. Yes, he absolutely deserving of the Hall of Fame. But when it comes to, Arthur Smith, for instance, he has been not good as a manager at all. And Rago should go completely. But if you're talking about Belichick, I would say when it comes to, I think in terms of X and O's, you would say Belichick is better, yes. But in terms of developing like coaching talent or coaching prospects or someone with a real legit tree, someone who could teach other coordinators or other assistants to become leaders themselves, real leaders of men, Andy Reid's your guy. Like, absolutely. Andy Reid's coaching tree is one of the most impressive coaching trees in league history. You can go back to Mike Holmgren, who should be in the Hall of Fame. And it goes back to Bill Walsh. And there's ties of Don Coryell, who's finally in, and Sid Gilman, and goes back further and further. Whereas Belichick, it comes from Parcells. But outside of Vrabel and a bit of Bill O'Brien, you haven't really seen much success for his coaching tree. Crennel was a phenomenal assistant, not a good head coach. McDaniel, same situation, not a good head coach.
Right.
Same with failed in Denver and Oakland.
Yeah, it's lost.
Oh, you suck.
Yeah.
So one thing from the Belichick kind of Bill Parcells, Earhart Perkins scheme people that are, still gingerly floating around in the league because for the most part everyone's kind of just running West Coast stuff. But
yeah,
actually, you know what? Perkins Earhart is Bill Walsh. But yes. The difference, Seth, is that it focuses more on concepts, or as John Green was saying, a concept, but it focuses on concepts rather. For example, I might have 4 wide receivers to a side. Well, Sean Payton would give it a name or 5 Quizno, okay? Whereas, as opposed to that, in a Bill Walsh system, it is quite literally, 4, let's just call it 4 blue, X fly, YG, right. Okay, or something like that, right? In other words,
what I'm getting at here is the people like Bill Belichick. Why I feel like people aren't successful from his tree is because one thing that they fail to utilize is the excessive attention to detail of the rules. Like Bill Belichick is a rule master. He's not just playing the game clock. He's playing the play clock. He's playing the refs' eyes, what they're looking at, what they're supposed to be looking at. Like every little checklist that everyone's supposed to be making. That's where Bill Belichick's playing his game.
Well, Seth, I got to ask you, given that, do you think he's just tired? He just doesn't care anymore?
I think he has a burning relationship with Robert Kraft, and he's ready to go. I feel like Robert is growing impatient with their lack of playoff appearances, and I think the whole Mac Jones relationship is weird when you see all those videos of like how Bill reacts to Mac in the locker room versus how after Bailey Zappi won that game and Bill's hugging Bailey, and it's like that was like some of the weirdest stuff I've ever seen, to be honest. Just everything that I've grown up hearing about Bill Belichick. And then the way that Julian Edelman comes out on all these podcasts now, and the way that he speaks and does all these Bill Belichick impersonations is like, well, what the hell are you doing that for, guys? No, you don't know who that is. It's like the whole. He's like a guy you don't want to mess up in front of. A guy that you want to just respect. Ultimately, because he takes his time. He knows every little thing. He gave Julian Edelman a bunch of crap about not knowing an offensive lineman's name who's a Pro Bowler. He's only won 3 Super Bowls. Like the guy's an attention to detail master. Yep. And so if you want to play that game, if you want to be Bill Belichick, which Josh McDaniels was obviously trying to do, he didn't know the rules. Josh McDaniels might know X's and O's, and you can draw an offense real good, and it's really
I would argue he doesn't. That's just me. I'm sorry, so I just have to say this, and I'll just vomit it out. He doesn't understand the proper passing game timing between blocking and receiver depth. There you go.
Well, I'll say with the Raiders, the biggest reason, in my opinion, why the Raiders passing game didn't work out is because if you look at who the Raiders passing game coordinator is, it's none other than Scott Turner. And he's Norv Turner's son. Norv Turner was hardly successful by himself. He was with a group of successful coaches. Probably, I'd say his most successful tenure was maybe the Vikings. And Scott was on that team when they I think they went like 11 and something but Scott's never done well on his own after that. Scott wasn't good with the Commanders. So how do you expect me to believe that Aiden O'Connell's a horrible passer when I've just kind of written this whole thing off because until we have somebody who actually has success, in my opinion, drawing up a scheme and developing a quarterback, I'd say still give, the rookie a chance, give Aiden O'Connell still another chance. He's probably still going to battle it out with whoever we draft. I don't think any of the quarterbacks, this might be a hot take. I don't really feel like a lot of the quarterbacks coming out of this year's draft are first-year starters going to make it all the way through and play all 17 games.
I don't think it's that hot a take. I don't think that's that hot a take.
Because, you tell some other people, be like, Caleb Williams is a generational talent. He's a first-year starter.
Like, the word generational has been cheapened in the last 5 or 6 years from every 25 years to every 2 years. So I guess by the new definition, I guess you could say that. But no, he's not Pat Mahomes, people. He's not Patrick LeVon Mahomes the second, or even
Bill's 21.
Good God!
Yeah, he scored another touchdown.
Yeah.
Sorry. Oh yeah, Zennie missed it earlier, I guess. But yeah, that was like
you didn't say anything. I'm like, ah!
Right, because we're talking about something else right now.
Yeah,
interject.
Yeah, I just noticed it too. I wasn't paying attention either, but man, I gotta say for the Bills, if they win, they host the Steelers. But if the Dolphins win, they host the Bills. So in a way, there.
If this clears, does this mean that Mike McDaniel's season goes from hero to goat? From goat to goat to not?
Well, goat the term goat has changed its meaning. When I was younger, the term goat meant that you were a bum, but goat is now more used as an acronym for greatest of all time. That being said, the Dolphins, even beforehand, there were some questions about them. They had that big win against the Cowboys, and of course, they scored 70 on the Broncos earlier in the season. But the last two games, this game against the Ravens, they got absolutely decimated against them, and now against the Bills, Josh Allen has had 3 turnovers in this game, and it doesn't really feel like they're taking much advantage of it. But the Dolphins have the ball right now.
Tua's got 2, by the way. One. Yep. I'm sorry, he's got an interception, a fumble. Yeah. Bill, what do you think? Bill is kind of like just watching. He's like,
Well, and you have a 96-yard punt return by Deontay Hardy. I don't know how you put that on Mike McDaniels, but here's the real thing, right? We all know that Mike McDaniels, speaking of coaching trees,
doesn't do you any good if you don't use it. Just like this treadmill I bought that I keep saying.
Sorry.
Speaking of coaching trees, one of the most productive recent coaching trees, right, is the Shanahan McVay coaching tree, right? Between Shanahan and McVay, who, of course, were on that Commander's staff with Kevin O'Connell, with the LaFleur brothers.
You're with Mike Shanahan, like Mike Shanahan, and you also had the current offensive coordinator with the Texans, and Matt LaFleur was on there.
Bobby Sloak was on there.
Yeah, but they then Redskins 2013 staff had a whole bunch of guys.
They had all the guys, basically, all the young guys, all the young up-and-coming coaches in the NFL practically were all on the same staff. But
I was saying, my longtime friend Mike Silver is writing a book about Shanahan and that tree you're talking about. Should be
Yahoo Sports, Mike Silva.
Yeah, we go back to Cal, UCLA, September 19th, 1986 is when that was when I met him, and his then girlfriend Leslie Goey, now wife, and I was sitting next to my buddy Duran Hom. Yeah, we were all together. So I've known Mike for that long.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the issue of what people think about Mike McDaniels, who's sort of sarcastic and funny and clever and witty and all that kind of stuff. But he's one of those guys that got there really fast, right? Like all those guys from the McVay, Shanahan tree we just talked about. All these guys were in their mid to late 30s at the oldest. I think O'Connell was 35 or something. Most of them are around the age of 34 to 39 when they got their first shot. I think LaFleur was 34 or something. I mean, these guys are all still very young, even the ones who've been coaching for a while, unless most of them are in their early 40s at the oldest. I think McVay is 43 or 44. I mean, they're all very young. Mm-hmm. Shanahan is also in his mid-40s. These are guys who are all very young. And they all are a combination of the guru plus, but with the player coach, like part baked in also. They're all guys that, have cool nicknames for their players. They're all guys that dap up their players with individualized handshakes and wear cool kicks and can talk about anime, right? So they can really, right. I mean, that's the one advantage, I guess, of getting a coach who grew up in the Adult Swim generation. But these,
wow, man, just put it point blank. I need that. That's the tweet of the year. That's the tweet of the year.
It's more so the Toonami generation, because don't forget, guys, Toonami started on Cartoon Network for the last decade. It's been on Adult Swim. Gotta be very specific. Remember, you're speaking to a Gen Zer right now.
Yes, I'm being reminded of that so brutally. But but this group of young coaches, and some of them are being extremely successful right out of the box, and some are not quite there yet. But
I think I'll stick to Baby Shark, by the way.
But the things that they all once again have in common is they all realize if you can get your guy isolated on a guy who doesn't want to be covering that guy, it seems like it's the simplest. For all the stuff we talk about and all the all the funny schematics and all that stuff, at some point they're taking a guy who is a really great athlete and putting him in space against a guy who's not as good an athlete as that guy and saying, try to tackle him, right? That's what all these guys, all the stuff they do breaks down to that. I want you to get a safety to tackle Tyreek Hill. Oh, he can't, right? I want you to get, I want Devin and Shane to get tackled by a linebacker. Oh, that's an impossibility, right? All these guys. Christian McCaffrey on a linebacker. Oh, wait, what happened? You missed him? Who knew? All of those guys, all of the guys we talk about, with all the fun schematics we talk about, at some point, all the things they do are about scheming up opportunities for these guys who are incredible stop and start, stop on a dime and leave you 8 cents change guys on a inferior athlete in space. That's what all of them are trying to do. And though Cooper Kupp doesn't have great blazing linear speed, he has amazing change of direction. Puka Nacua is a guy that tested right around average in almost everything except, once again, 3-cone and short shuttle. Those guys want you at some point to say, can you stay with this guy in this little short area? No, you can't. And now you're chasing him from behind. And if it's Tyreek Hill, you're not going to catch it. If it's Jalen Waddle, you're not going to catch it. If it's Christian McCaffrey, you may catch him if you're super athletic, but probably not. And yeah, Puka, you might catch him. Cooper Kupp, you might catch him, but for a guy that doesn't look, people don't realize how strong he is. He's 6'1.5", 209 pounds, and just he clearly lives in the damn weight room because he breaks so many tackles for a average size, white wide receiver who he runs through a lot of people's faces and he blocks like a crazy man.
Yeah, that's the underrated thing. Is blocking is outstanding.
All of the Rams receivers are good blockers, though. Puka's a good blocker.
Yeah,
when they had Woods was out there thinking like he was miniature Hines Ward. All those dudes are out there blocking, and and that's the other underrated part of all of these guys, is they all understand, as much as we talk about the passing game stuff, they all love running game. Mike McDaniels made his name as a run game designer, not a pass game guy. He could do pass game stuff, but he made his name, he made his bones as an NFL coach as a run game designer, and he still is one of the more creative and interesting run game designers. Some of his counter stuff is like, woo.
I think he's integrated the run game into the pass game with the way he uses motion so much, and like his sweeps and everything. Like, it's genius. It is genius design.
Yep. And once again, all to do what? To take some in-man on the line of scrimmage who might be a defensive end or an outside linebacker and say, hey, try tackling Raheem Mostert in space. Oh, it didn't work out.
And guess what? He had a head start running.
And he had a head start running, right. All right, here we're lining up Tyreek Hill at fullback. now watch what happens.
Right.
So
you forgot fullbacks can catch, huh?
More to the point, schematically, now you have to cover him with a linebacker. How's that going to work? This is a guy that, like,
know, to say something. It's sad that an ethic that I think Al Davis, where he's still alive, would die to have within the Raiders system hasn't been maintained, because I think about what Mike McDaniels is doing, and I'm thinking, my God, how come he's not on the Raiders staff? Or I think of, Bill Walsh. I can just name the coaches that have figured out how to build speed into their passing game in different ways.
Yep.
And yet, save for one person, they never touched the Raiders. The person I'm thinking about is the combination of Bill Callahan as head coach with Mark Trestman as offensive coordinator. And I will tell you, they assembled one of the greatest single-year offenses in NFL history. A little one and done. Sad.
Yep. It was one and done, but it was a very fun offense to watch. And, it turned a quote unquote journeyman who some teams didn't even have rated as a quarterback, right? Both Washington and the Patriots tried to move Rich Gannon to either wide receiver or safety. So for him it's true. Now it's true. He ran, that Tubby Raymond wing T in college, so you didn't really see a polished passer. Obviously, he was he ran a lot in college, and he was fast. He ran in the 4.5s, but when he gets to the NFL, he had to be sort of rebuilt. And to his credit, he worked super hard. He eventually got to a situation where somebody saw what he could be. And that nimble footwork, that quickness, that decision-making, that toughness were all things that worked really well in the Gruden version of, that sort of combination of like downhill run scheme with all that West Coast offense principles that Gruden really leaned hard into. But yeah, you saw that one year of brilliance that they managed to put together. And then Gruden, is out the door, and then he remembers all the weaknesses of that same offense and then takes that offense apart when he goes to Tampa Bay.
All right, folks, we're wrapped up because we're actually went on almost 17 minutes over. Well, that's fine. It's been great. So, Seth, I'm going to give you the honor of taking us out with a comment or thought you have, please.
All righty. Well, I guess I'll try and actually bring a hot take over here. I'm going to say that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to get knocked out. They're going to get knocked out after in this first round here. I think they've kind of spent their time. I wanted to ask Vinny about this because he was talking about Andy Reid and the coaching tree here. Eric Bieniemy is someone that I thought a lot of people were, everyone was really behind him, and everyone was really behind everything that he could do over there with Washington. And I think I was a believer in Sam Howell at the beginning of the season, and for him to be leading the league in interceptions, at least as far as last week's stats, as far as I'm concerned, he was leading the league in interceptions, and just kind of disappointing. And just the way that Tyreek Hill left, Eric Bieniemy left, the Chiefs have difficulty scoring on offense. I mean, the Raiders held them to under 20 points, and without completing a single pass after the first quarter. And just goes to show how crazy the defense the Raiders has gotten. And I feel like it really just speaks volumes to the Chiefs' production. They're sums up with Patrick Mahomes. I'd say his becoming a father, and has created a new responsibility for him. I think his little brother Jackson Mahomes, has created a lot of difficulty for him mentally. Just just dealing with press and he's not really involved in anything he's doing, but he gets asked questions about it, and it's a very prevalent thing. And the things that Jackson is doing are not cool for publicity, and
forget publicity. It's not good. Period.
Yeah, it's not good. Period. I mean, I don't condone or like anything he's doing, and so I think Patrick Mahomes is dealing with a lot. I think he doesn't like Matt Nagy as his OC. He kind of threw a little shade. He didn't necessarily throw shade at Matt Nagy. I won't say that, but I feel like he praised Eric Bieniemy in a way where he said he made me better, and he made me a better player, and I feel like that was just kind of a little shot at the GM. Maybe kind of just Andy Reid too, of just not really taking into consideration what Patrick Mahomes thinks, because Joy Taylor and that group on First Take, Ocho and that whole group, they were talking and saying, Patrick Mahomes needs to just go up and talk to Andy Reid. And for anybody who doesn't know, Patrick Mahomes has is like this with Andy Reid. He can go talk to him about anything at any time, and I'm sure they've had that conversation. And it's been had. So Patrick's not going to be able to go up and say anything and do anything that hasn't already happened. So if this is what they're going to be doing, I think they're going to be struggling just like pretty much everybody else. I think it's kind of I think they've kind of come down to a little bit more of a fair fight, and I think there's going to be a huge upset. We were talking about upsets earlier for the Super Bowl. I think the Browns could be one of those teams. Joe Flacco, I mean, who doesn't want to watch Joe Flacco play football right now? So I'll just leave it at that. I mean, Joe Flacco and the 49ers, that would be good. Joe Flacco and the Cowboys could be interesting. But either way, I'd just like to see a little switch up. I'd like to see a little bit of spice this year. I just want to see good, entertaining football. I feel like there's been a lot of predictability. It's like, oh man, this scores, this is going to be a lopsided game. This game's going to go neck and neck until the very end, and there hasn't been a lot of surprises, and I kind of miss that. It was fun watching games, growing up, when you're like, oh yeah, everybody thinks this is going to happen, but there's always a big shocker. Miss those.
Well, folks, Seth, that'll be the last word, and an outstanding program, guys. So hey everybody, thanks for watching, and we'll be back with more this week. Subscribe to Zennie62 on YouTube and bookmark ZennieReport.com. We have our new NFL site coming a little late with that. That'll be announced soon. All right. But that ends this broadcast.
Right on. And it was nice meeting